I am so pleased to introduce Professor John Martinis from the University of California, Santa Barbara. John Martinis pioneered research on superconducting qubits as a graduate student at UC Berkeley. He worked at the CDA France, NIST Boulder, and UC Santa Barbara. In 2014, he joined Google Quantum AI, leading the team to achieving quantum supremacy for the first time using a 53-qubit quantum computer in October 2019. He is a recipient, among many things, of the 2014 London Prize and the 2021 John Stuart Bell Prize for research on fundamental issues in quantum mechanics and their applications. Please join me in welcoming John.
Thanks, Brian.
You left out something very important. I've also been a CDL mentor, which has been really wonderful. I can't tell you how much I've learned. So with quantum computer, we want to build a new computer technology, which for certain problems, we know will solve problems much more powerfully, solve unsolved problems. And I was involved in quantum supremacy, showing that a quantum computer could be powerful for a mathematical problem. And the field right now is working really hard to do something useful and create value. We think there'll be a tremendous value into it. I'd like to maybe compare it to the deep neural networks. And we're kind of at the point of deep neural networks quite a few years ago when they were starting to work or whatever, but the algorithms and software ideas had to close the gap with the hardware and build better GPU hardwares. And we've seen how much value comes from that. And I think we're kind of in a similar stage right now. So I'm optimistic about this, but what I want to do here is maybe a little bit different and give you a realistic view of what's going on. And I'm going to be talking about hardware. That's my expertise. There's many approaches. Now, in being realistic, I think that's something that the CDL program, I think I've been able to contribute, could do a little bit more. And the basic idea here is for quantum, for example, people talk about a new idea, a new technology that they're going to do it with, and they talk about what's good and what's great about that. And that's fine, and we understand that. But as people have built complex systems, which certainly a quantum computer is, it's a system problem. And besides talking about the best, you need to know what all the problems are, what the risks are, and you have to understand a fuller picture of what's going on. So it's complicated, and we need to learn what to fix that, what to fix. So I'm going to give an example for quantum. In quantum, it's not just how many qubits can you scale, which is important. Okay, you have to build something big. You have to have, a lot of transistors in it, for example, for a classical computer. That's kind of obvious. People understand that. Not so obvious is you need to have good qubits. And the reason you need to have good qubits is qubits are fundamentally error-prone. You can't make them perfect. You can try to make them better and better, but it's really hard to do that, and it's not clear which technologies are better or worse than that. People are making advances, but you need to know that. And the third thing, which is maybe no surprising, it's speed. Okay, we understand a quantum computer, if you can solve these problems, it's great, but speed matters because the different proposals, it's not like a factor of 2 difference. It's a factor of 1,000 or 10,000 different in speed. And very simply, a factor of 10,000 or 1,000 means an algorithm will work or not work, or if things are equivalent, 1,000 times faster computer will make you 1,000 times more money because you can run 1,000 times more things. So it's important to think about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give an example in the field of quantum computing, kind of how to think about it this way. So for example, there's been a lot of really interesting improvements on photonics using light to encode information and manipulate it. And people have talked a lot about how it's going to scale by taking fiber optics connected to us and plugging it in some way to scale up the device. This is really great. However, photonics has a real problem in loss. It's easy for you to lose a photon through something that, that doesn't work well. And the loss of the photons is actually a significant issue. And whenever you look at photonic systems, I try to pull out what their loss is. And my statement is, if you're not showing people that number really seriously, you don't know how close they are to get it to work. The scaling looks okay, but that's bad. There's a lot of talk about atoms, and especially neutral atoms this year. That has made a big progress, and it's clear they're going to have a lot of great papers in the next 3-5 years. The thing to think about atomic-based systems is that the basic clock cycle is about 100 microseconds, whereas something like superconductors, it's like 50 nanoseconds. That's a ratio of 2,000. And in some cases, atoms are even slower than that, maybe 20,000 or more. This big time difference, its speed, is actually really important when you think about a system. Finally, I'll talk about the system I'm doing, superconducting qubits. They can make systems, are pretty fast, they work okay, but basically they have to get better. We have to make everything better. And also we have to learn how to scale them a little bit better. I have ideas, other people have ideas, but you really need to focus on that. Okay, with that in mind, excuse me while I pitch my new company. We got a Series A funding, and I got my first paycheck last week. So I'm really thrilled about that. The focus of this is to solve the hard problems in superconducting qubits, which we think is fabrication. Okay, and the way we're going to solve it, it's been kind of academic fabrication to some degree so far, is we're going to work with Applied Materials, who is going to make our qubits in their prototype lab using the most advanced tools. And every process step along the way, they can improve upon it. And we're really excited because we think we can make better qubits, but also importantly, make them more reliable and make wafer scale devices. And it's kind of interesting because if you think about building fabrication, if you want to build the latest tool set, 300 millimeter, multi-billion dollars, you're never going to do that with superconducting qubits. People have built 200 millimeter, it's kind of 20-year-old technology, fabrication for hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's actually doable by the big companies. And then what we are trying to do is partner with this company, and then we can do it for much, much cheaper than that, and something that we can afford as a smart startup company. Plus, we get all their expertise, which is worth most of all. We're also doing full stack, but we're going to be collaborating with other companies, and we have them lined up similarly like Applied Materials. So at the end, I just would like to thank CDL. It's been a great, they've been mentoring me as I've been mentoring other people, and I've learned a lot. I think it's certainly made a big impact on our business, and also I think it's really helped the field in general. So this has been a very positive experience. So thank you.
Just before you jump off the stage, can I just ask you 3 questions?
Yes.
Okay. So what are you most excited about when it comes to the developments and the state of quantum hardware right now?
I am really excited to work with Applied Materials. And you know, as an experimentalist, you like to use really fancy tools to build things right. So their basic tool that they're going to be using is, I don't know, $50, $100 million. So you never get a chance to do that inside of a several billion-dollar clean room with advanced metrology and their expertise. So to work with the world's experts on materials and fabrication, I'm learning so much. It's fantastic as a scientist, but also you see for the technology, there's so much to do now. And that's really fantastic.
And what are the biggest barriers to scaling quantum hardware?
So we have an idea on how to do it, but I'm going to say, you know, making the hardware reliably, uh, you know, which requires, expensive equipment to do that. It is hard, and that means you have to, in the end, raise, a decent amount of money to do that properly. So our idea, collaborating with companies, is a good business model in order to make that happen, because we share kind of in the expected profits with other companies, and by sharing, you can do a lot of nice things.
And last, by sharing, you can do a lot of nice things. I don't know if you caught that. Last question, John. What's your most important piece of advice? There's lots of founders in this room, in our alumni companies, founders who are building quantum-based technologies. What's your best piece of advice for those folks?
Well, it really ties back to what I'm talking about here. You really have to think about the whole system you're building, and you have a really great idea, but are all the other things to build a quantum computer compatible with your idea, and how to do it? And I'm going to say, when you go to investing and try to get money, it's great to talk about all the wonderful things. But if you really want to make progress, you have to solve the hard problems. You want to solve them soon. So you have to be talking about your problems in some kind of way, maybe even internally, the company, whatever. But if you ignore the hard problems, you're probably going to fail. Okay, so there's a balance there on how to do that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, John.
Thanks,
everybody. Awesome. Okay, next I'm so pleased to welcome to the stage Christian Weedbrook, CEO and founder of Xanadu Quantum Technologies. Xanadu is a Canadian quantum technology company building fault-tolerant quantum computers using light. Over the last 15 years, he has been at the forefront of bringing quantum technology to the world through his research and leadership in academia, government, and industry. Christian holds a PhD in physics from the University of Queensland and held postdoc positions at MIT and the University of Toronto. Welcome, Christian. Okay, we're doing this fireside chat style. Okay, so imagine a little nice fireplace and ambiance. So Christian, welcome. Welcome back to CDL. Can you first share a bit with the audience about Xanadu and its core technology?
Yeah, for sure.
It's up.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, for sure. So Xanadu's mission, we always like to start there, is to build quantum computers, make them useful and available to people everywhere. We were founded 2016, went through the first, I think it was the year before the quantum stream officially started here. We were in the AI stream. And what differentiates us is that we use light or photons to build our quantum computer. We're a full stack company, so we do the hardware, software, and also the algorithms on top. What are you going to use these computers for? And based in downtown Toronto with over 200 people now.
You and your co-founder, can you cast your mind back to 8 years ago? You and your co-founder walked through these very halls to the CDL room. Do you remember what it felt like to walk into your first CDL session?
I barely remember what I did last week these days, but I think it was good. It's obviously overwhelming, but there was a lot of great people that was providing a lot of support for us, both in the companies that were in that cohort and also through CDL. So I found it really good. It also with building a quantum computer and what we're doing, it feels like a purpose. So it wasn't too overwhelming. It was just the right amount, because you want to also be work hard and alert and present. So it wasn't too bad. It was a lot of fun, and we've been coming back for the last 8 years in a variety of different ways, which we look forward to.
And do you remember your first set of mentors? And also, I mean, this is way back, but do you remember the problems they were helping you with at that time?
It was nearly a decade ago now. One of the things, we had a few set of different mentors, which were really helpful. And also we've got Ken here, who's been here in CDL for many years, and as a good friend has helped us throughout the whole journey as well. I think it's just to continue to remain focused on what we're doing. It was always an understanding that you'd have to raise a lot of money because it's quite hardware intensive. So, don't think about the kind of long term, but do it step by step. And, we started off our first raise was $2 million, I think it was, and our last one was $100 million. And I can tell you, raising that $2 million still feels like $1 trillion. When it got wired into the bank, it didn't feel real. Just sort of checking and refreshing, make sure it actually was there. And it was still there, which was great. But that feeling will never go away, and it's impossible to surpass, even if we're looking to raise again at the end of the year a couple $100 million. Still, that $2 million feels so much more.
And where is Xanadu today?
So Xanadu, like other companies, it's more about the industry than Xanadu, and there's a lot of overlap there between us and where the industry is. So we have quantum computers. We demonstrated quantum supremacy a couple of years ago, and that was big for Canada and Xanadu. Allowed us to get more funding as well. And as we heard John say, Google did it first and was really impressive demonstration. And so we're part of that cohort of demonstrations. But where the technology where we are and the rest is really about error correction and fault tolerance now. There are other things, but that's kind of the main theme over the coming years. When you do want to scale up, you need to make sure that you're correcting the errors fast enough so they don't accumulate. So ultimately, you use it for something, whatever you're using it for, you're getting the right answer. So really, quantum supremacy was one of the big things, and the next kind of phase now is error correction and fault tolerance.
And in general, just to talk a bit about the state of quantum, how close are we to commercial applications that leverage quantum technologies?
That's a hard one to answer. It's not very clear. I would say that there was a trend in the last few years about, it's called the NISQ era. So what can you do without error correction and fault tolerance in terms of applications? Us and others have spent many years on that. We gave that up probably 2 years ago to focus on error correction and fault tolerance. We don't think there's anything there, but others are still trying, and the field overall tried a lot. So that didn't lead anywhere. We always knew we had to get to error correction and fault tolerance, everyone, if you really, truly want to solve problems. But just for the audience, really the big problems will be in pharmaceuticals, finance, AI, and material design. That's kind of the common thinking of the areas. So when that happens, it's unclear. I would say for us, we're aiming towards the end of this decade to build a quantum data center. That'll be an acre of land. It'll have a bunch of quantum server racks in them, all networked together. And the reason I bring that up is that'll have approximately 1 million physical qubits, and it's at that point that you'll be able to, nearly for sure solve customer problems. And, that's, say, 2029, 2030. That's not far away now. So I would say that if pinned down, hopefully sooner, it could be later, but on average, that's what we're aiming for.
And you mentioned materials engineering, you mentioned pharmaceuticals. What's the common thread between those different types of industries for which quantum computing is so uniquely positioned to support and help solve?
Yeah, honestly, it goes back to the fact that you've got some system that as you add more and more elements to it, let's say atoms and molecules as they scale up, it doesn't scale well. So the system scales exponentially and it gets more and more complicated. And that's true for drug discovery and material design. But what happens is after a certain point, it becomes outside the reach of traditional computers, even supercomputers. So that's where it's believed quantum can actually jump in and help out. And honestly, it's because it's starting off with laws of quantum physics. So like Feynman was sort of postulating, is it'd be great to have some other quantum system that you have full control over, i.e. a quantum computer, that you can now start simulating these things. Now, we know we have drugs, we have new materials all the time, but if you look at the statistics, the success rate, say in drug discovery, 10 years, $1 to $2 billion, and 90% of them fail, all of the candidates. And honestly, it starts because you're using computers, traditional computers, along with heuristics and data and knowledge that these chemists have for previous decades, but you still don't have the best or the ideal candidates. So, and inherently the belief is these systems are quantum mechanical, and then you'd like to have a quantum computer that can give you the best candidates to begin with in order to synthesize a new drug or synthesize a new product, material.
Okay, so imagine it's the year 2034, and CDL has just launched its latest site on the moon. And no one? Yes? Maybe? Okay, maybe. Someone said maybe. Small claps, we'll take it. What is the state of quantum technology in 2034?
Well, I hope Xanadu and others in the field have reached 1 million qubits by then. Our aim is before that, but I think with higher conviction, we can say that we'll achieve that by then, and others. I think there's not just one winner. I think there'll be a few winners. And as John was saying, there's many different approaches, and I think they all have a shot. Obviously, we like photonics. They all have their pros and cons. But I think by then you'll see more of them having full-fledged error correction and fault tolerance and over 1 million physical qubits at that point. And more importantly, solving important customer problems.
As CEO of Xanadu, you've gone from living in your research to, as you mentioned, raising over $200 million as a CEO. What is the most important piece of advice you've received in your growth trajectory as a leader?
I think focus. And if you look at anyone that's kind of achieved something in any field in life, focus is always up there at the top. And also, just if you really believe in something, just keep working. Like the more hours you put in, the lower the probability of success. And so you just got to keep putting in the time. As a founder, you got to work 7 days a week, night times, day times, all the time. And in order to do that, you need to be highly motivated because that allows you to get up each day and work these long hours. So I think choosing something that you really enjoy doing. So you want that overlap of the passion with your skill set and optimizing that overlap. And if you can do that, that gives you the motivation, it gives you the excitement, and it gives you the ability to keep working hard all the time.
Maybe just last question here. I'll ask you the same question I asked John, which is there's lots of venture founders, over 300 venture founders here at Super Session, many of them working in the quantum space, trying to build quantum companies. What would be your piece of advice to founders that are building quantum-based companies?
I would say it can be for quantum, but it's for any startup. So just trust your instinct, trust yourself. Get advice. It doesn't mean you have to take it. But most people are never going to be as invested as you are in your success. So just work hard, work nonstop, work many years, and try to enjoy what you're doing, at least the idea you started with. If someone told me, for instance, you can be a billionaire by doing, I don't know, selling shoes, there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't know anything about shoes. I still wouldn't do it. So even if someone guaranteed you'd be a billionaire, but it'll take 10 years of hard work, I wouldn't be able to see it out, even if I knew for sure I'd be very rich, because you want to be working on something that actually gives you meaning and you actually want to learn about as well.
Amazing. Well, you mentioned you were here in 2016. In 2017, we started the Quantum Stream, very much inspired by seeing the potential of your idea. Just want to say how proud we are of having you as a CDL alumni, and thank you so much, Christian. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Vanya.
Thank you.